Hello, welcome to the All or Nothing podcast. Our official sponsors are KR Couriers and Transport Limited. This is a Northwest based courier company delivering all across the UK. They can assist in home moves and removals to large, heavy and bulky items, collections and drop-offs. Fast, safe and reliable deliveries. Please get in touch for a free quote. You'll find all the information within the description. Thank you. Hello everybody and welcome to the All or Nothing podcast with myself, Billy Moore. And today's special guest is the mind coach, Chris Larsen. Chris, thanks for coming on.
Thank you, mate.
Tell us a little bit about yourself so the audience can understand what you do and what you're about.
So for the last 6 or 7 years, I've worked with some of the best athletes in the world. I've been fortunate enough to be supporting some of the careers of some really high-end individuals, basically through mindset performance, so helping them become the best version of themselves. It's something that I'm passionate about, which is people. A lot of people will know me for that mainly. So my organisation, Leap 76, has been doing that for sort of 6-7 years.
What's your organisation called?
Leap 76.
Leap 76. So in your line of business or your line of work, you help maintain the mental well-being of these athletes.
Yeah.
Basically. And how does that work? How do you go about that? What's the process?
A lot of people think that, like, if you're a boxer, it's like being in a training camp with trainers, but it's not. Mindset coaching is 12 months round. It's helping people deal with the things that happen in life. That, we're not all just programmed. We don't get a manual when we're born that says, this is how you deal with grieving, this is how you deal with addiction, this is how you deal with problems at home. So, I just help them understand and sort of rationalise stuff and make different decisions if they need to, or make the best decisions for themselves.
So, it's therapy, basically.
Sort of, yeah.
See, because I'm aware of therapy, Chris. I know about therapy. I've been on the receiving end of it. And I've kind of contributed to helping others in that way. So I believe as well, the experience you have in life, molds who you are, and it allows you to kind of offer that bit of guidance and, the knowledge as well, the information that you've gathered over the years.
Yeah.
So, for example, say I came in, right, I'm a little bit ski-whiff. I've got a fight which is high end coming up. Yeah. UFC, doesn't matter, fucking boxing. But my mind is distracted on other things. I'm focusing on relationship breakdowns, or I've got an addiction in the background which I'm keeping a secret because this is what's
happening.
It's all secrets keep you sick. Yeah. Right. And I know kind of from my own experience, this is the kind of stuff that people, life on life terms, the reality is, right, on the outside, on the surface, we look like we're dropping bombs and we're okay, and aesthetically we look fantastic, but internally we're fucking crucified, right. And I bet any money you come across a lot of people who were out there and
I mean, I've had some unbelievable situations happen to me over the years, and one of the things that I always say, it's built on trust. I never sign an NDA ever. I've never signed any agreement that it's all about trust. And what I say to people is, if they say to me, well, we need to sign this NDA, I say, look, if you don't trust me already, I'm not the guy for you. So go and find somebody. But some of the stories I've heard over the years, some of the information that I've, had to
contain,
and sometimes deal with as well, because sometimes your bullshit becomes my bullshit. So sometimes I'm sat at home thinking, fucking hell,
you're only human.
I wonder if he's all right. I wonder how that's gone. I know he was having that talk today, or I wonder if he's gone. I wonder if he's fucked about again. I wonder if he's done that. And I find myself being involved in people's lives, and it's a lot to take on. A lot of people don't realize, they think that you're just giving people motivational talks, before they go out to the ring. It's none of that. It's never that. Sometimes it's people who are fucking world champions, or they're Premier League footballers who, they finish training, they finish a game, they finish a fight, and they go and sit in a house on their own maybe take drugs, maybe drink, you know, maybe fucking dusting all of their money because they're hanging around with the wrong people, and there's people just like clinging on to them, and who've they got? They've got no one to turn to. So their life, that analogy that you give where it's like, aesthetically we look fine, it's like a duck. And the duck is like sat on the top of the water, looks calm as anything, and then underneath it's like these fucking legs are going like that. And that's what their life's like. And sometimes I find myself being concerned whether you're all right. And I've had to drive. I've travelled around the world to go and help people because I thought they're not all right. Yeah. They need help.
I've used that analogy before, but it was a swan gliding across a lake. Yeah. But you don't see the business underwater, no, because you know, like you said, it's and I can understand, because, you know, I've had that experience, Chris, where I've had to pretend, right? I've been on the red carpet in Cannes Film Festival. I've got 2,000 people cheering and applauding my achievements. What a guy, right? I'm sneaking off into a toilet to take drugs, right? To cover it up, to mask it, and then using the excuse that I've got cancer as to justify, you know,
my
image, the way I look. So,
fucking hell.
I've had that where I've had to sit in front of cameras, you know, and pretend, and then go to a room and just feel fucking, you know, you're high for a bit, and then you've described it. You know, you're in that room on your own, and everyone's gone, and then you're on your phone, fucking screaming for a bit of fucking self-esteem from other people, looking for a like, looking for, you know, a comment that's gonna boost your you know, how you feel. So yeah, it's fucking horrible.
It is horrible, and it's funny that you said about validation, because we need validation as people, right? So we, as human beings, we need, you know, to have self-esteem, and we need people to give us esteem. That's how we function. But sometimes if the validation is not real, you know, some of these people who've got shitloads of money, you know, they get access to anything, they can go anywhere they want. The validation that they need is not like a girl in a club or a guy in a club, like, you know, and taking them back. It's not that. It's not being able to, you know, for you know, an everyday person getting invited to an event in Vegas or a penthouse for an after party is a big deal, innit?
Yeah.
To them, they're just expecting to go anyway. You know, if they didn't get an invite, they're not happy. So validation becomes harder. So actually, the level of validation that they need is different to what we need. We might just need a like. We might just need someone to, you know, message us. You know, to them, it's like they're constantly seeking for something that they you just can't get. Because what would validation look like? I've actually said that to some people. I've said that to a world champion boxer. I've said, just humour me. This person was suicidal. I won't say who it was. This person was suicidal. They said, I don't want to live anymore. I'm done, you know, I'm a waste of time. I constantly, no one gives a shit about me, blah, blah, blah. And no one is ever like recognises the good stuff that I do. So I was like, okay. So I looked back over all of the stuff and I was like, fucking hell, like, that's as much validation in a week through socials and through friends and family than I get in my life. So I was like, just tell me what it is, what you're looking for. Tell me what good would look like. And they were like, I don't know. I said, it doesn't exist. What you're craving doesn't exist. And the problem is, if you've fucking come out the ground at Wembley to go and fight in front of, you know, 80,000 people in that arena and millions of people all around the world, you'll never get that feeling again. You can't get that feeling again. You know, so they're constantly striving for that feeling, and it's really difficult, but it's a lonely place, mate. And I tell you now, men don't help themselves because we don't speak. We do not speak. We can't speak. We see any level of vulnerability as weakness. We've always got this image. You know, everyone's got to walk around with this ego, this image, and it's like that's what's killing men. Because where's the safe space? Where can you turn around? Like, imagine in a football. I used to play football. Imagine in a football change rooms going in and saying, "Fucking hell, I feel a bit upset." Me like, fucking hell, you'd get slaughtered. You can't do it. So where the men go, they can't say it to the partners. Because, you know, again, that's emasculating. You know, then who did he go and say it to? The kids. Well, they're dependent on you. Yeah. So you've got nowhere to go. So this is another reason why I think there's a pandemic of male suicide. Yeah. And I don't know what the answer is, but I know that we need to try and create as many spaces as possible for men.
I think the answer is, right, in my humble opinion and my experience over the years, because I was one of those men that, that male masculinity, the half of the hair, the broken nose, the look, I had that image. I was a big kid, and I used that as a coping mechanism, on the landings in prison, bouncing around, shut that door, sat on my bed and just sobbed, thinking, I can't do this no more. That's all opens me. That mask goes back on again.
Yeah.
I'm out there. What's happening? Right? I'm someone else for somebody else. And I had to go through. This is where I can identify and relate with your business side of things, the therapy and the talks that you do.
Yeah.
It's because I've had people like yourself who sat there in front of me and said to me, look, what are you searching for? What is it that you need? And I didn't know, and when I started telling about how I felt, my vulnerabilities, I couldn't cope with rejection, because I thought, if a girl said to me no, it was like, she's a lesbian.
Yeah.
That was my attitude.
Yeah.
Fuck her.
Yeah.
Because I wouldn't accept that I just wasn't her type.
Yeah.
She just didn't like me.
Yeah.
And that was, that's the facts. Some people like it and some people don't, and that's okay. I'm not going to be everyone's cup of tea. However, I'd take that personal, and then that'd strip away a little bit more of my self-esteem and my confidence, and then I'd be settling for less.
Yeah.
And then I'd have cap in hand and, all that kind of stuff. And then I started to share, and the best thing I did was write about it.
Yeah.
And I wrote this story and wrote it as honestly as I could, and then it was published, and then I couldn't escape it.
Yeah, it's out there.
It's out there, and you know what happened, right? I was cringing when I was writing it,
Yeah.
Right, and this is what I say to people. I was cringing about telling people how I felt, telling people, the unsavoury experiences I found myself in and the situations I was putting myself, around, and I put it out there, and it was really attractive to the audience. They were like, fucking hell.
Yeah.
This is open, this is honest, this is refreshing. And that's what that motivates me now. I'll tell you fucking anything.
Yeah.
I'll go into a changing room full of men and go feel really to feel upset.
Yeah.
But
that's a superpower. When you get to that stage, that's a superpower. When you get to the stage where you're completely comfortable with yourself and you can display your emotions, you're winning. Because that way anything can be remedied, right? Anything can be fixed. Anything, you'll get over everything. Yeah. You're stronger than you'll ever think. But if we mask it, we're never actually facing it, so we don't know whether we can. So we're scared to let it be out there. And now your story is out there, you can celebrate that story and people, it's not actually that bad, is it?
No.
But do you know imposter syndrome?
Yeah.
Imposter syndrome is the thing that I'm fucking telling you now. If there is two words that sum up my job and why I exist, it's imposter syndrome. It's people in jobs that they don't feel like they deserve to be in that job. It's people playing football. It's people who are boxing. It's kids in schools. It's people trying to fit into gangs. It's people, honestly, we work with like 1,200 schools in the UK. Some of the kids that I do work with who are like 14, 15, fucking hell, they don't even, they've been roped into a gang. I'm trying to help them make better decisions. They want to make better decisions, but before they exit the gang, they sort of need to fit in. They feel like they need to fit into the gang, and I'm like, what a messed up situation this is.
Before they move on.
But yet they know it's the wrong thing, but they need to be accepted because they feel like they don't belong. And imposter syndrome is a mad thing. And I think that you think about like females, a lot of the females I do work with who work in, male-dominated environments, they'll struggle from imposter. I've done work with some really senior people in TikTok, and a woman who's relatively young, and like she said that she didn't open her mouth for 4 months in a meeting. She didn't open her mouth because of imposter syndrome, and then she used to go home and like take minutes from the meeting and then read what everyone else said and then try and think about what she could say in the next meeting based on the words that she'd heard, because she didn't want to sound stupid. How fucked up is that? Like, and I was like, I don't understand. What if they don't get asked the same question? And it's like, well, I didn't want to say anything that sounded stupid. This person ended up with an eating disorder. They didn't eat.
Yeah,
and it's
fear.
Like, imposter syndrome is insane.
Especially in females, because I had Molly on. And Molly was like big in the UFC. She still is, and she's out there, and she talked about that. You know, how she felt like an imposter.
Yeah.
In her own world.
Yeah.
You know, and kind of I could identify that because I was sitting at tables, you know, and it was directors, producers, and they were talking about actors. I'll tell you what, Chris, right? I've just come off the streets with a carrier bag with my life story in it, trying to sell it to them, and he bought it, you know, and they were like, "Wow, we want this."
Yeah.
I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, this can't be fucking, this can't be real, you know. And I sat there, didn't know what to say, didn't have the input. All she had was my story, and that's all I could tell. You know what I mean? I couldn't make any decisions. I was misinformed. I was misled. I was misguided. You know, I lost a lot of money because, you know, the way I was sort of like rushed into signing agreements and contracts. Didn't have an agent. That was my.
It's learning now, isn't it?
It is. The next step, you know, I did get myself an agent after all that drama, and I realised, I got a much more of a better deal on my next story than I did in that last one. It's, you know, like you said, it's a learning experience, but that must be a difficult one for both men and women.
It is, yeah, and like you know, my story's crazy, right? Because I grew up on a council estate. My mum had growing up, like I used to sit there with my mum while she was like writing what meals we were going to have throughout the week so that she could like budget. Be efficient with the shopping. Yeah, budget for the shopping. There was nothing went to waste in our house, nothing. And, you know, we had fuck all. And like for me, I used to get like hand-me-down shoes and trainers and all that to go to school. And I was just trying to fit in. And I was a mixed race kid in a predominantly white area as well, which was a problem. But, you know, we had fuck all. I know what it's like to have nothing. And, you know, I remember when I first started, I left school with no GCSEs. And when I first started my proper job, I didn't even have an education. So I had imposter syndrome from day one because I thought, I'm in a job here. Everyone else is educated, all apprentices, because this was in like automotive in Toyota. Everyone's got fucking degrees, or they're doing apprenticeships, or they're an engineer. And then you've just got this fucking skinny kid with an afro in there who's just fucking managed to talk his way into this job. And it's like, what now? So I used to at first, like if they used to invite me to meetings, I used to say no. At lunchtime or anything, I wouldn't go and like sit around, because I always used to think to myself, I can't speak to them. And when they used to say words, sometimes I used to write the word down, go home, and it wasn't like as easy on your phone in them days, but I used to go home and like try and find out what that word meant. And then I would try and use that word, but I'd use it in like the wrong context and everything. It was fucking hot. I was putting on a mask every day.
But he sounded like Russell Brand's using big words and making no sense.
That's what I was doing. And I remember thinking to myself, at a point in time, you know, I've gone from, if someone had Sky Television on our street, they were rich. Do you know what I mean? We used to fucking sneak in there and watch the wrestling and all that shit. And I used to think to myself, they're rich, these. Like, they've got fucking Sky, they've got 300 channels. Yeah. You know, and
we've got 5.
we got 5 channels, and they're all in black and white. And I used to think to myself, these are fucking rich. Now I fast forward in my life now, and like, you know, later on this year I go to Necker Island to do a talk on Necker Island, and it's like, how the fuck has that happened? Yeah. And, you know, I've just managed to be happy with who I am. And imposter syndrome is something that is literally inhibiting everybody's life. It's like walking around with a fucking weight round your neck. And if every single situation that you go into, you feel like you don't belong, imagine how draining that is. And they're 2 words that I would say. Everyone says to me, why the mindset coaching exist? I'm like,
well, we are wired up differently, and with, you know, we're complicated people with we complicate things that, you know, we can solve. Yeah. You know, that are solution based. Yeah. And for me, it was always, you know, crisis. Something small, crisis mode. Oh, fucking, I can't open that letter. Whoa. And I'd go into a crisis mode. I couldn't understand. Right? I couldn't take responsibility. Couldn't be accountable. You know, and it was, and I always needed somebody else to do something for me. Yeah. You know, because I had a void. Like, all that responsibility.
Yeah.
And that kept me in a bad place for a long time, you know what I mean? So someone said, look, you need to empower yourself. You need to, empower me to do my own things, you know what I mean?
Well, you've got to take control for who you are. So a really good thing as well that I always try and help people with is, no matter what situation you're in or anyone else is, it's down to two things, right? It's either consequence or it's choice. When we're feeling like victims, we'll always say that it's consequence. So we'll say, I'm overweight because my job's fucking hard. Yeah. I'm overweight because fucking my missus eats a load of shit at night and she's like, you know, I just have to fucking eat whatever we're eating.
Or the kids.
The kids are there, yeah. I can't go to gym because my job's busy and I've got to be in work at that time and I'm fucking chock-a-block. Everything's consequence, you know, and I'm feeling depressed because this has happened. I'm feeling anxious because, you know, there's stuff going on at work and I don't know if I'm going to have a job. But everything we'll always try and put down to consequence. The reality of it is you're winning in life when you're taking stuff out of consequence and putting it in choice. And you're saying to yourself, I'm overweight now because I can't stop eating shit. And if I want to stop eating shit, I need to take control of that now, today. And I'm in that boat now. You know, that's the boat I'm in now. I'm as heavy as I've ever been in my life. And I sit there sometimes and I think, I've sort of ran out of excuses. I've blamed everyone. And I can't blame any of them to the face because it's not real. But I blamed everyone. But really, it's me. And it's, all right, I can't go to the gym. Well, get up an hour earlier. Yeah, but it's fuck. I can't. I'll only have
Schwarzenegger says that.
Yeah, go to bed an hour earlier as well, and like you know, it's
get up at 5.
Consequence or choice, right? Remember that. So whenever you're having a conversation with somebody, I always say to people, right, we're going to write consequence and draw a circle, and we're going to write choice and draw a circle. Tell me all of your problems now, and then we're going to put them in either consequence or choice. If you can convince me that it's consequence, sound, you know. That's the hand that we've been dealt and we're going to have to learn to deal with it. If it's choice though, let's just fucking change it tomorrow. Now. Let's change it now. And I think that's like a massive eye-opener for people when they realise, because it's a control thing then. It actually empowers you.
Yeah.
Some people go, do you know what? Fucking hell.
Sometimes though, I think we when we sign up for things, like, so I've signed up for kids, right? I've got like a 8-week-old baby boy at home. He wakes up when he wants, screams when he wants. Yeah, you know, I know my missus, she puts more of a shift than I do, but I contribute in other areas because we can't both be tired at the same time, and you know, so, and yeah, I get the food thing maybe because I blame the kids. You know, why are you buying them? Well, do you like them? And yeah, but you know, it's hide them. I'll hide them from myself. Yeah. And then I'll fucking
forget where you put them.
But then I'll go and find them. Yeah. You know, I'll swear like that. I don't know, something's wrong with me, like, because I'll wake up. I don't know if anyone else does this, but I do. Right? I wake up early hours in the morning. I've stopped it for the past couple of days now. I've had to put like the choice thing, right? I knew it was a problem. It's been going on for a long, long time. I can maintain a weight. I can, you know, eat the right food through the day. All the protein, you know, reduce the carbs. Train like, you know, like an Avenger, and then go to bed, and then wake up 2-3 in the morning, and I'll be in the cupboard eating chocolate biscuits and cakes and all. I don't know where it's coming from, so I'm eating them and all that. And then I'm waking up feeling shit about myself, going, why did I do that? Like, what's going on? What's wrong with me? I won't do it again. Tomorrow's going to be different. Always going to be different. Same thing happens again. Now, it kept happening. And the other day I went, right, when you wake up, right, tell yourself you've got a choice. Yeah. Right? Because my missus says to me, she's come downstairs and I've been in that kitchen, she said, it's somebody else. You are possessed. Right? Your face is totally different. Because I'm half a kip eating stuff. Yeah. Right? And it's fucking weird. I tell people about it in the gym and they go, that's a bit mad, isn't it? It's weird. I don't do that. Yeah. Oh, do you do that? Yeah. And then I think, then it stays away. I separate myself. I think I'm fucking different now. Yeah. You know, so then I get that little bit of fear of like sharing it. Yeah. Because someone might judge me on like the way I could behave early hours in the morning. Well, we're creatures of habit massively, aren't we, right? So we do what we do what we've always done. Our life is like, society causes life to be routine, doesn't it? So we get up in the morning, we fucking go for a piss, we brush our teeth, we get a shower, we get dressed, we go do whatever we're doing. That's like the routine that we're in.
Then we come home from work, we have our tea, we fucking watch shit tally or whatever, you know, we go to bed. If you start adding in little things to that routine, like I went through a stage where I was eating a family bag of crisps in bed at night watching tally, not exercising. And then I was going to the doctors and saying to the doctors, look, I've got acid reflux here. I think there's fucking something wrong with me. So then I'm having cameras all over the place. And she's saying to me, so is your diet all right? I'm like, it's all right. You know, I've got something. I must have a tumour or something. Yeah. You know, I had health anxiety. And she was like, well, and then she's like, write down what you're eating. So I showed her this one day and she's like, well, you're not eating Doritos, are you, in bed before you go to sleep? I was like, yeah. She's like, you need to stop that. Like, and do you know how long it took me, even though I knew, I was saying to people all day, people were going to me, should we go to the gym? And I was like, no, lad, I can't. There's something wrong with me, innit? I think I've got a tumour. Like, why I looked up and like, because I can't breathe properly or anything because of this acid. Why is that? It's just, come on, might even be hereditary. Turns out it's like these fucking Doritos I'm eating at 11:30 at night and then getting up in the morning. But even then I couldn't stop doing it because it was that's the routine that I put in. So I think changing habits is really, really difficult. And a lot of people will say, oh, you know, you should go to gym, you should fucking eat healthy. And we know all of these things, don't we? But life, like, just takes over. And that's why I exist in a job. Because sometimes some people have time. And success, I don't want to ever get it twisted as well with what I do, because a lot of people will know me for working with, like, I've just got a thing going on at the moment that's potential with the Premier League. I've got things going on with a load of football clubs. It's really, like, glamorous stuff. And I work with a lot of world champion boxers, Conor Benn, people like that people know about. But I actually prefer some of the stuff that I do, mate, is helping people get out of bed. Yeah, you know, recovering alcoholics or recovering addicts who are, you know, they've been through the 12 steps of recovery. Every single day to them is a battle, you know, and they're some of the people who I work with, some of the kids that I work with who I'm preparing for exams, who haven't ate for fucking 2 months properly, and the parents are like worried about them, and they're not, you know, it's for everyone. So like some of the people we work with are just single parents, and like, they're just trying to cope with life.
See, I've been through a recovery program. I've been through the 12 steps, the green and gold. I've been through the basic sex. I've gone through that book so many times, from 1 to 12, over and over again. And it's each time it's built more of an awareness, right? I've opened up more. I've learned more about myself. You know, I've been clean for a long time now. But I first came into recovery over 20 years ago, and my first meeting, you know, and it was like, I was looking for a way out, and it's so, see, people think this happens overnight. What you're doing and what I do, and you know, I'm not here today talking to you, Chris, like, oh yeah, I read a book and all of a sudden I'm okay. Yeah. I had a little chat with this fella who's you know, who's a predecessor and took them steps before me and guided me down this path. It doesn't work like that, because I've had sponsors, I've read books, I've done this, I've listened to records, all of everything you could think of, all the self fucking help, all of them groups you can go to, and nothing's happened. It's only when it's landed, and it's right. Something's opened up there. Yeah, there's a light switch gone on, right? He said something to me a few years ago, and that's what happens to me. Yeah. Someone says something to me on a landing in a prison. I'm leaning over the bars with a skinhead half of ear, right? A young kid, just a scally, fighting anyone, black eyes, they're locked down the block all the time. Little half fella, probably about my age now, right? Yeah. But at the time, he was like, right, this fucking half fella, right? He stood next to me, and he went, "You're all right, son?" What the fuck does he want? You know what I mean? I looked down, he had a pair of Reebok Classic on, right? Yeah. Pair of blue prison jeans, a grey prison jumper. I was, "You all right, mate?" He went, "Yeah." He said, "You know what, son?" He said, "Life doesn't get any easier, you know." He said, "We're not getting any younger." He said, "Remember that. You know, this is not for everyone, this." And I was, "All right, yeah, Sam, mate." And he walked away, and that was, you'd never seen or it, but that just resonated for years. Yeah. Like, he just kept coming back. And remember him, he used to say that. Because year after year after year, it was getting older and older, it was getting harder and harder, and that's just not getting any easier, not getting any harder. You know, you need to change. And that was kind of sort of the things that people said to me that sunk in a few years later. Yeah. You know what I mean? It was like, so I'm under no illusion, and I'm pretty sure yourself that you can have a client in front of you and you can tell them this, that and the other, and that they're not going to go away and all of a sudden the problems are...
No.
It doesn't work like that. It's a process.
It is, yeah. And that process like can be dependent on loads of things as well. So like, you add a load of time. If you're in prison, like we work with some inmates now, like if you're in prison, you've got loads of time to think because you've got hardly any distractions, right? Yeah. If you're in a really high-end job that's taking up a lot of your time, or you've got a really young family, your situation now with a baby,
two,
it's fucking hard, isn't it? How do you get any time to sit there and go, right, fucking hell, let me think about that? We don't spend any time like reflecting on anything, and that's why we don't change, because we're just busy with life. And there's a book called The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. I don't know if you've ever read it, but there's some bits in that. I did a university and I did a master's, right, in business when I was like 30. And we got a reading list of about fucking 60 books that we had to read. And so I'm just thinking that's what you've got to do. So I've gone and got all of these books out of the library and everything. I didn't read one word of one book, but because I was going to work, I got an audio book of this 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. It changed my life. I listened to it, and then I'd listen to it again. Instead of listening to music, I used to just listen to that. And he says like loads of things in that are the habits of like highly effective people. And it's all like things like starting with the end in mind and like thinking win-win in situations. And some of the stuff that's happened there is like, he talks about reflection is like we spend like 10 minutes reflecting on a day. But actually, if you're busy with life, you can't. So we're just constantly churning out the same shit every single day, and that's what I was talking about with like routine. And when I work with some of these people, I don't call them clients. They're just my mates. They stay at my house. I go and stay at their house. When they need to speak to me, they speak to me. If they don't need to speak to me, they don't need to speak to me. And I've got like a really good relationship with them. But honest to God, like some of the issues that people are going through, people don't realise, do they? You're walking past people on the street and you're thinking, they look sound, they might have a fucking £1,000 pair of trainers on and they might look the bollocks, they, cool, got swag. Inside me, they might be in a bad place. And
definitely, mate, I totally agree with because I'm guilty of like buying nice things because I felt shit about myself.
Yeah.
And if you thought, oh look, he looks okay, then that'd be enough for me.
Yeah.
That stuff. Kidding myself, mate. And it was it was a sad world. I've got to a point where I've spent all my money trying to look good and being at a bus stop with a bus pass.
Yeah.
Right. And going over a chippy or a pot noodle. Know what I mean?
Yeah, I working with this woman, or I was working with this woman about just over Christmas actually, and she had a newborn baby, split up, was in a toxic situation, but split up anyway. She's left with fuck all, got no self-esteem, no self-confidence. She was with someone like a narcissist who was like basically broken her. Someone reached out to me and said, look, can you just go and like please speak with a family member? So I went around and when you can just look at someone and you can just see like someone broken, and she was trying to talk and I could tell that she tried to like dress herself up as but I could tell that she put loads of, and honestly the first time the first time I left there, I'm not an emotional kid, me, right? The first time I left there, I went and got and sat in the car outside and I was crying and I was thinking to myself, fucking hell, like,
you didn't have to do that.
Yeah, like, what the fuck is that? And then I found out that, like, she would just, like, the baby would just cry, and then she'd just go and ask, like, the neighbours or random people and say, oh, can you just come and sit in here for a minute? Because she just, like, couldn't cope. And I remember, like, I ended up having to get back in touch with a family member and say, look, I don't think she should be on her own for a bit. And do you know when you're just looking at somebody and they're just walking, like, down the street and you just think, normal person. This person was literally broken. And from her knee up, underneath her clothes, she had all, like, slices, where, like, she's...
self-harmed, yeah.
She's sat there in a house with a newborn baby and she's doing that because she's lost. She's completely broken. And she wasn't trying to kill herself. I said to her, like, what's the purpose of that? And she says, I just want to feel. That's what she said to me. She said, I just want to feel again. She said, I do that because it makes me, I'm numb.
Wow.
I'm completely numb. And I was just like, fucking hell. And I used to go and get in the car, and in the end, because there's only so much you can do, isn't it? You know, you feel like you want to go and fucking buy an house. I'm like thinking to myself, I wonder if I could move her in with the baby and see what my missus says, you know, like fucking. But you want to do everything you can.
You want to, you want to just rescue them.
But the thing is she had to. She's in a really good place now, but she's still recovering, you know. But from where she was to where she is now, like. Fucking hell, mate, and that's why I love my job. Is I just think to myself, like, you know,
rewarding.
It is, because I'm not saying that there's nobody, but we all should take responsibility for how. I don't know what happened with people not helping people, and like my missus, like, she comes out with some mad stuff sometimes. She said something to me yesterday. She goes, why didn't God make people where everyone just helps everybody else? She said, I wonder why she's made it where people are like
struggling,
conflicting, like
hostile.
Yeah, and I was like, I don't know, like, what you thinking that's a fucking mad. Then for the next 20 minutes of the journey, I didn't speak, but that's all I could think about. And I was thinking, it is mad, that, isn't it? Because what she was saying is, like, she was talking about someone had gone for a job interview, and then someone else from an old job had rung up and said, oh, you shouldn't hire this person because of X, Y, and Z, but they had no right to, anonymously. And she was like, but why would you do that?
Exactly.
And I was like, well, it's probably... And I'm trying to give her reasons, and then I thought to myself...
I haven't got one.
Why the fuck would somebody do that?
Yeah.
And I don't know what's happened, but I mean, all I do know is I love my job. My team that I've got are unbelievable. And we help thousands of people, and we save lives. And not only do we save lives, but we help people not only become, like, from good to great, you know, and win trophies and win titles, and like, that's fine. But we help people. Some people just get out of bed. Some people just cope with life. And everyone's victory is different, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know, and if you can help someone whose victory is just like eat, you know, just be healthy and eat. I love going home and thinking to myself, even though I've took a lot of that on, I think to myself, I've done something today. I've literally achieved something today. And the only ever time it gets too much is where someone, my missus or something, will say to me sometimes, but who do you talk to then? Like, where does all of this stuff go?
It's got to go somewhere.
And I have to process it, don't I? And think to myself, you know, but I worry as well. So if I speak to, like, that woman, or like the, you know, the people who have, it's not nice. It's not nice. So I do worry, but, you know, I've learned now to cope. So I only try and do a 4-day week. I've tried and get into stuff that gives me like a little bit of an escape. Yeah. But it's I never work a day in my life.
Yeah.
Because I love my job.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So it is good, but at the same time, it's massively rewarding, and it's needed. There needs to be more people who are, you know, confident enough to tell their story like you are. And then once you've told that story, it feels like a weight's gone.
And you know also, Chris, right, and this is an experience I had yesterday, right? I won't mention the person's name, you know, but he's, you know, a notorious, you know, individual up in Scotland, right? I'm up there talking about, you know, my observations and my experience. And you got a platform, you make yourself a target. We all do. You got a platform, boom. The higher you rise, the people pull out the knives, and that's how it goes. And I'm aware of that, and I'm okay with it. But then it was like a little dig at what I was doing and what I was saying, right? And, you know, how dare I, and this and that and the other. And someone got a message to me, said, have you look at this video? So I thought, okay. Don't really want to look, because I can search for a bit of pain, and I know I can find it. Yeah. You know, and then I can find that resentment, and, you know, and then I worry where it takes me.
Yeah, yeah. You know, you've got to deal with it. Yeah.
But it did, right? Because it kept popping up. So, okay. Right. So it was brief. It was to his point. It didn't make any kind of like sense. I felt it was a bit, you know, judgmental, hasty. And I spoke to a friend who lives in Glasgow, and I said, look, okay, this is what separates the men from the boys with me. That breath, that moment, instead of reacting, I respond. So I'm thinking, spoke to my friend. He said, okay, so how are you going to deal with it? So what I did is I commented, don't do this, under his video, and said, look, you know, I was with my kids. Next time I come up, maybe I'll pop into the schemes and you can show me about, and I wish you well in your recovery. I left it at that, right? Part of me was going, well, you should have said, who the fuck are you talking to?
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Swear, right? Because I get the feeling like but then it's like the humanity and being civil, and then the response I got from him was like, I was hasty in my judgment, I apologise, and I wish you well and take care. And I thought, that is how we deal with like stuff.
Yeah.
We don't.
Well, think of where that could have gone. If you'd have sent a different message, a different 10 words, a different sentence, think of where that could have gone.
Exactly. You know, and it goes like that with everyone. So what I do, Chris, and I believe, right, and especially with the audience I've got, and they're quite supportive, is that like I try and like diffuse situations. I'm not afraid.
No.
I've got no fear. Look, mate, I'll stand in the ring and on the streets with anyone, right? The biggest fear and the most, you know, the person I fear most is myself.
Yeah.
And what I will do to myself and where I'll take myself and the consequences that I will create. So what I do, I'm quite mindful. I reflect, right? I take my inventory and brief with it. I go, okay, is this going to be any beneficial? Am I humiliating anyone? Am I putting anyone down? Am I naming someone without, you know, their permission? If I ever film anyone, I always ask, is it okay? Are you okay coming on camera? Because I don't want them coming back or someone going, Johnny was on your video there, out of order, get that video down, you know what I mean? You shouldn't have done that. I'd never do that.
No.
I'd never blatantly put a camera in someone's face. So when I speak to people who are on the streets, homeless, people who are in addiction or in recovery, and I say, okay, are you willing to come on? Yeah, Bill, I'd love to. It's great, thanks. No, not for me. That's fine, and I walk away.
Yeah.
But I give them I give them that informed decision.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's smart as well, because what you've just said is like you can't affect people's actions, but you can affect your own reaction.
Yeah.
So like, you know, I think over time we learn, don't we? So obviously, like, you know, where you've said that 10 years ago or 5 years ago or whatever, you may have dealt with that.
I definitely dealt with that differently.
Yeah, and it's amazing. I don't even think it's maturity. It's not maturity, because I know 18-year-old lads, 20-year-old lads who have spent a long time in prison. You know, young offenders. They're a nuisance. You know, and they've been arseholes basically growing up, and even them at 20, they'll make that decision. And I've watched a lad like not so long ago in Manchester, and
that's powerful. That.
It is, and I watched him, and there's these lads, and they're like, it was fucking unbelievable. A car pulled up next to some lad. I'm just in Manchester, me, going to a meeting. I thought, fucking hell, like, next thing, this car, boom, comes in. These kids get out the car. This lad's just stood there, and these lads are like trying to, and he didn't go like towards them or nothing. He was just saying, look, I don't. It's over.
Yeah, and some people can see that as being passive.
Yeah.
Now, that's what someone accused me of. No, being passive and sort of being involved but being passive. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Saying that, but being passive. No. Right? I'm diplomatic.
Yeah.
Right? I'm kind of like trying to look for a middle ground with people.
Yeah.
Keep my side of the street clean.
Yeah.
Right? Keep it. And someone does. You know, some of the terminology I use, other people can take it out of context and think, what the fuck's he going on about? He's talking about recovery. He's got the language. It's not. It's just. It's like you said. I remember getting called a recidivist. I don't know if you know what that means. Like,
no,
right, so,
I wouldn't want to fucking spell it. I know that.
So this fucking like I'm a gym orderly in Stafford prison. Right. How I got the fucking job was beyond me because I was a fucking nuisance. And Mr. Kelly, the PT, said to me, he said, you know what, Bill? He said, you are a recidivist, right? What's one of them? So he said, go back to your cell, get a dictionary and find out what it means. Went back, and a recidivist meant I was a habitual criminal. So I was a constant on that cycle of recidivism, right? So I thought, he comes fucking recidivist, right? But that sort of propelled me into kind of like searching for like austerity words that people like. I was in another prison, Edinburgh, and down the block, they don't put you down the block, they put you down in austere. But what the fuck does austere mean? Right, you're going to austere. I was like, well, is that the block? No, it's austere. So, again, austerity, right? And it was grim, dark, poor, you know, all that. It was all that negative kind of stuff. So, all these, I thought, okay, so these new words are coming into play here, you know, and after, I people say, you know, are you trying to elevate yourself with this new language? I'm like, fucking no, I'm trying to learn.
Yeah,
you know, to feel less than or more than, or to feel just like on an equal equilibrium. You know, I was like, fuck, I'm just trying to like just like widen my vocabulary and understand what people are saying to me.
Yeah.
Without having to go back, get a dictionary. Or fucking get on my phone. What the fuck does he mean?
Can't even spell
because then you're winging it, aren't you?
Yeah,
you know,
it is as well. And I think prison's like a mad place, isn't it? Because when you talk about, I mean, I've never been to prison, but
you should go. It's good.
I've been. It sounds good. Yeah, I couldn't last in prison, and I couldn't. And the reason I couldn't is because I always think that, like, I've been raised by women, mate. Yeah. My father, I had no dad around or anything like that. I've been raised by women. So when I was growing up, like when I was younger, I think I was always like an emotional kid. And I always had to deal with my own shit, like growing up. And then I was like fighting all the time because of like racist bullies and all that. And then I got to a stage where I just thought to myself, like, I need my family around me. I couldn't just be like separate from my family. And I think prison, everyone, it does, yeah. And I think I could have made the wrong decisions, though, Bill. Like, it would have been easier for me to just graft than it would have been to get a proper job. It was a lot easier. And some of my mates, I was grafting on 3 shifts, you know, fucking earning 250 quid a week. And some of these lads were earning 250 quid in an hour. And they were saying to me, Chris, what the fuck are you doing? Just take that, and just bring me that back. And I'm like, I could, but I always felt this thing where I didn't want to let my mum down. I always used to think to myself, my mum has put herself through the trenches to just get me to here, so I shouldn't fuck that up now. Yeah, it's cut because of that.
Corners in life.
Yeah, but prisons, mate, fucking hell. Some of the people that I speak to in prisons, and they're exactly like you said before. You've got to have all of these different masks, haven't you? And I know lads who've not long ago just been sent to prison, and I don't know how they're going to last, because knowing what they're like, but they'll be a completely different person in there, wouldn't they? What's it even like? What's the mood like? You know, is it constant like conflict? Or?
It's a volatile atmosphere. I remember my last experience, and I've been in prisons, or like I've been in Thailand, I've been in Bangkok. I know what prison is like in a different country, you know, in a third world, developing sort of situation. And I know what it's like in the UK. It's like I'd say a drug-induced psychosis environment where people are paranoid. It was like just fucking look at the floor, because if you look at someone in the eye and they look at you and it locks, right?
You're in.
It's like, who you looking at?
Yeah.
And because you're in that environment, and everyone's tasty with it, you know, it's going off. So I've been like, and I'm a big kid and I'm scared, you know what I mean? But I don't want any conflict. I'm getting a bit older now and I've had enough. But I've been in a situation, it's just it is a hostile environment. You know, people are getting cut up for, you know, cards of spice, like a credit card full of spice, you know what I mean? 50 bags and blah, blah, blah. I don't know what the fuck they are, you know what I mean? I've never had it. But yeah, it's not you know, there's a bit of banter, you get that side of things if you get a group of friends and stay in a little clique. But at the same time, because you're getting moved about so much, you know, and you're on a different like wing or a different environment or a different prison, you know, and there's a different situation, you know, from that area, you know, you get drugs in, they don't. If you got a phone, it's gangs then. Yeah, it's violence. It's a heightened awareness at all times. You know, I know people have come out of cells because, you know, and they've had to have, you know, FHM magazines strapped around the waist like a bulletproof, stab-proof vest. You know, just walking around the prison all day long because, you know. See, I've got this theory, right? I mean, it's only my own, but I've got this theory that, like, to rehabilitate offenders, I'm not sure that I don't know the answer, but I'm not sure putting people around a load of other offenders is the answer. And like, it's just locking them up, isn't it? Yeah, and the thing is I know a kid that got sent to prison, right, because he had no insurance and he got caught a couple of times and he ended up doing. He should have only. I think he got 6 months originally, and he went in. When he came out, which was about 3 years later, because of fucking bad behaviour and all that, he's a different kid. This was a nice kid. Yeah. He was a nice kid, quiet as fuck. Couldn't fight sleep, this kid. He was not a fighter at all.
And when he come out, he was that kid that you're saying on the, like, if you lock eyes with someone, he was like that when we were going to a pub. And in the end, I had to say to him, like, why are you being like that? And he's like, well, him there, he's the one with the problem, isn't he?
And everyone else was thinking, yeah.
Yeah, and I'm like, he's in a fucking pub sat there with his missus. He's not kicking off on 6 lads here, I can tell you that much. He's not. And he's like, nah, he's fucking, I'm going to go and see him in a minute. And I'm like thinking, fuck, but he's gone into that environment, lived in that environment for sort of 2.5, 3 years. And when I spoke to him, he was like, yeah, but you've got to survive. He said exactly what you said. He said, the hardest bit is the first period of time that you're in there where you don't know anyone. You don't know how to be. You don't know what version of you need to be around other people. He's like, you don't know where to look. You don't know where to go. You don't know the routine. So you need to ask, but you can't speak. He said that was the worst bit.
Yeah.
He said, and then eventually you might have someone who takes a liking to you. But that person who takes a liking to you might be someone who's hated in there. He said, so now I'm a target because I'm with him. I don't even know.
It's like, you know, it's quite common that, you know, I'm not going to talk to him because my mate doesn't like him. Yeah. You know what I mean? But he's a dickhead. Oh, is he? Yeah, he must be, because you don't like, you know, that's the attitude. So you'll jump on everyone's, it's like misguided loyalty, you know, misinterpretation, resentments become your resentments, you know, your life, you know, the back up and all that. It's fucking horrible. It is.
Just one thing I wanted to touch on was around, like, obviously we both was involved in the weapons down, gloves up game, is, you know, I do a lot of work with kids as well, and, you know, some of them are in similar situations to, I guess, some of the kids you're working with, but what's your take on that? Like, because I actually got another theory as well about, you know, some of these kids that are in there, they're also victims, the ones who get, like, roped into the gangs. Yeah. And it's a really tough situation, isn't it? Because it is a pandemic that needs fixing. Every day you'll go on social media, there's someone else getting stabbed, or there's a group of kids with fucking machetes.
So my take on it, Chris, right, has always been, right, there's a contributing factor, right, that leads up to the behaviour of someone, right? So what's going on? I want to know what's going on at home. You know, what's going on in the background? Who are you speaking to? You know, are you under threat? You feel like bullies? You feel you need to fit in? Do you feel like an imposter in your own house? Because I had that experience where I'd walk past my mum's when I was a young kid, right? There was 6 of us, I was the oldest, and as I was coming to the window, I'd look in, she was in there, and all the family, being a family, and I'd feel like I didn't belong, right? And it was weird. I didn't even fit into my own family kind of environment. And then you've got, you know, the other stuff like the peer pressure. You know, then you've got to build up that rapport, that relationship. So what we do, we'd box with them, we'd pads, little chat. So in between rounds, we have a little chat. How are you? You know, slowly. How's things going? Because it's that, like, us and them. Yeah. The authority, right? But when they know who you are, and they say, oh, fucking hell, it's Billy. I've seen him on Insta. I've seen Billy on YouTube. I've seen that movie. I've seen that podcast. How are you, lad? You know, and then you can build. It's like
build a relationship.
It's visible.
Yeah.
It's not someone they've never seen before where they go, fuck that, I don't know who's he, is he busy? Yeah. Right, so it's good for the people like myself, lived experience, so to speak, who've had that kind of way of life. You know, you can sit there, I had my ear bit off when I was 16 over an Easter egg. I always say, look, I was fighting over fucking Easter eggs, right, with this kid. He was a cock of his school, it went off. He bit me fucking ear off. I got slashed in prison over a digestive biscuit, a chocolate biscuit. I said, food's always the fucking theme, right?
Yeah. Stay away from food.
Food's always the theme. I said, I got stabbed, you know, in the chest by a kid called Danny G from fucking the South End. When I was in the South End, I've been on the receiving end of a lot of violence and subjected to fucking. You know, I've not only ever been on the receiving end, I've also fucking been on. I've delivered it. You with me? And so my take is, right, this is like a scenario we say, you know, I was standing on a corner on Kingsley Road, trying to be a rebel without a cause and stop this lad from, you know, kicking off on this bird who didn't know. He pulled a knife out. I had no weapons on me except these, right? And it's like bringing fists to a gunfight, you know what I mean? And he was like chasing me with it. He couldn't catch me. My ego kicked in when he was getting off into this taxi, and I pulled him out. He turned and he stabbed me. And then he was looking at the back of the cab, laughing manically at me while I was on the floor. and it was in my chest, but I've got a scar here. Lucky to survive. I had, you know, a bit of muscle padding, a coat, a hoodie at the time. It was early hours in the morning. I always say to these youngsters now, I said, you know, if I could play that tape now, I said, I was in your situation, I said, I'd run for the hills. I said, I'd make, at that time, I was thinking, there was no one about it. The funny thing is, there was no one to impress.
No. It's just the ego.
It was my ego.
Yeah.
Right? If I don't do this, I'll walk away feeling shit about myself. Right? And he'll be thinking this and he'll be thinking that. Right? But on the other side of things, I could have been on the floor, lying, dead. Right? That would have been it. So I'll talk about the stuff that I go through. You know, I do a lot with Martin Murray. You know, he was playing with us. These great kids, and do a bit with Martin, and we sit down. And they're only youngsters, but it's nice to have the opportunity to speak to them, and not one of them are pulling out the phone. Yeah, showing like a lack of interest, because when they do that, I know I'm not doing something right.
Yeah, they're engaged.
Yeah, so I engage them. Look, when you're talking about like prisons and violence and prisons abroad, and you know, and murders, and I've witnessed murder. You know, I've seen someone getting killed in front of me, right, and stabbed 50 times, and it was like I couldn't fucking intervene. So I have been in these situations where it's been slow motion, Chris. I've sat back, and I've been in my cell. You know, this is in Bangkok, and every night I played that fucking same video over and over again in my head about this kid getting stabbed. You know, and what could I do? Yeah, I was so close. You know, but it wasn't my problem. And I could have been on, you know, that same, and it was horrible. So when they're like human interest stories excite people. Wow, fucking hell, you know, how did you get back from that? So I think I bring a lot to the table when I talk to these young kids with the experience you have, and then it's down to another team. Then we pass them on, you know, to another team that can go, okay, so. You've had a little bit of life experience from someone and a little bit of guidance. You've built that relationship up. You've got a bit of discipline and routine because you're turning up at this gym. You know, time management's on beam. Now, this is the next step. So it's step by step. And then I also believe, Chris, right, and I think this is for everyone, and I've said this from day drop with Weapons Down and everyone else, right? We should provide aftercare. Yeah. It's not bums on seats. It's not getting them in. Getting a pair of fucking shoes on them, sending them out the door, going, look what we've done. Yeah. Let's get a picture there. Yeah, right? Yeah. Fuck all that. I don't want a bouquet of flowers. I'm not interested. You can keep the cameras, you can keep your microphones. Don't give a fuck. What I care about is, like, I know what it's like to miss a meal, right? I'm not here to fed in my own nest. I'm here to fucking look after these. And that's the passion I've got, right? And I believe, if you said it from the get-go, you've got a passion about what you do. Yeah. And I've got a passion about what I do. Right, and I don't share it like as often as I should, the way I have done now, but I do, and I believe that I was that kid. Yeah. Right, fucking lost, getting beaten by my dad, you know, getting swatted everywhere, you know, going to school, fucking getting bullied. It was fucking horrible. You know, my mum having to borrow money because my dad had spent it on the fucking ale. You know what I mean? All that growing up. But my ma had find clothes in the fucking streets and fucking wash them by hand. You know, give us them. That's the kind of stuff. You know, so I know them feelings, and I remember walking around the streets with a fucking pair of trainees that my mum saved from a catalogue, and I showed everyone. Yeah. It was weird. I was going to Chippy, right, showing a babe behind the car. Look, my mum's got me. I must have been about 9, Chris. Yeah. But it was like a fucking box of gold. Yeah, yeah. Shows everyone before the fucking yeah. Oh, mate, it was fucking.
It's good though. What you're doing is like unbelievable, and you know, I'd love to support you guys as much as I can, and like, you know, I can come and help with the kids, and they can come. Like, we give people a recognised qualification in leadership as well. So there's some stuff that we could do with that, where we can get people on the right path, and you know, I'm more than happy to do that. And I think that there's more that communities should do, because the only travesty in all of this is, I think, the people who are taking responsibility, like yourself, like the charities, Weapons Down, Gloves Up, No More Knives, they all come from them same experiences. I don't see a lot of people from, you know, affluent areas starting charities with knife crime, because they probably believe that we'll leave them to them, you know, and they'll all just like fight amongst themselves. But that's a really naive point of view, because some of the people who got killed were really nice people. Some of the victims of like weapon crime are really nice people who they'll say were just in the wrong place at the wrong time, but they weren't.
No.
They were exactly where they were meant to be, exactly when they were meant to be there, and they just got caught up in some bullshit and didn't go home.
Yeah.
So the only thing I would say is I want to get involved because I'm from a similar background myself, but I think it needs to have more exposure, more awareness, because I think every community needs to start realizing that, like, you don't know who it's going to be tomorrow's victim.
Exactly.
And it could be you, it could be one of your kids. And it's like, these kids, a lot of them, you know, they're doing really bad things, but are we providing them with enough choice, you know, to make better decisions? And I think as long as everyone got involved in helping with what you're doing, I think there's an answer.
Yeah,
but
definitely.
It's powerful to hear, you know, if I was in their situation and I heard like stories like that, because that's what they'll be dead interested in.
But then I, at the same time, Chris, I think to myself, fucking, the imposter kicks in.
Yeah.
You know, that's where so, but I'm learning how to kind of like deal with that, you know, and accept.
But they'll look at you as like a hero, won't they? That they need better heroes, don't they? And like, you know, growing up, to me, do you know how many friends I've lost since I got successful legitimately? I've lost virtually, honestly, you can count on fucking 3 fingers how many mates I've got now. I used to be in groups of lads, you know, from where we were from, and as I was on the rise and I was fucking just, you know, not getting too much, you know, out of the zone, everyone was all right with me, you know. Then all of a sudden you start fucking buying Aston Martins, or you start buying nice cars and buying nice houses, and you're in different places, and all of a sudden you're an arsehole then, you know. But if I sold drugs and I pulled on to the car park of that pub in an Aston Martin, I would be a fucking hero. I am not joking, you. People would be like, mate, he's the man, him. Yeah. And it's like, well, no, because I made that through, I worked hard. You know, I've got a company and like I employ people. He's a dickhead. He gets rid of fucking 3 ounce of flake a day. He's like, he's the man. And I'm like, it's fucked up, innit? So that's where these people are being brought up, and they need different heroes, don't they? So listening to someone like yourself who says, you know, I've been in these situations, I made shit choices, but now I'm looking back on it, at least I'm alive now to look back on it and say, I would have made a different choice if I could go back in time. I think it's powerful, mate.
Definitely. Brilliant. And with that, we're coming to the end, and I could talk to you all day, Chris. At the end of every podcast, I ask me guest this question. So what would you do? Right, this is a pearl of wisdom coming from you. What would you say to a young Chris Larsen, right, coming through the doors of life? If you seen yourself now, right, and you could see, you know, where you were going, or what, you know, there was an opportunity to change your pathway, what would you say? What advice would you give yourself?
The advice that I'd give myself if I could go back in time would be to take control of the choices that you make. And I think that it sort of goes a little bit back into that consequence of choice thing. But for me, it's about taking control. You know, I spent lots of years like blaming other things and other people. And then I would complain about the situation I'm in, even though I fucking put myself there. So if I could change anything, I'm not that person anymore. You know, if I want to move house or if I want to do something, I get it done because I take control. And if I could speak to myself, you know, even in school, take control of your fucking... I sort of celebrate now that I left school with no GCSEs, but it's not a good thing because I still had to do all of that afterwards.
Yeah, same.
So it's like I just wasted another 3 years of my life after I'd already done fucking 10 years. It was like... So I'd take control of my own choices, and like I would be my own person. And I think when you always look back on your younger self, you always think to yourself, you know, do you want to look back and think I've got a load of regrets? Or do you want to look back and say, well, I can't have regrets because I made a choice, an educated choice at that point. So therefore, you know, you've got to be happy with where you are. So I think the best thing for me to say is like, take control. You can be whatever you want to be. Honestly, I'm living proof of that. I've come from fuck all. And like I said, you know, now I like go and knock about with people, like, you know, and I'm involved in situations. I get to spend loads of money on shit stuff that I used to think to myself, you know, fuck, you know. And that's all just because I've took control, but I was too late. And I wish I could have done it a bit earlier, and then, you know,
amazing.
Who knows? Thank you so much, mate.
Chris, I'll put all your descriptions with all your information within the description. Anything you'd like to send over and say, I'll put that down here. So thanks for coming on.
No problem.
Pleasure
mate.
speaking to you.
Thank you for having me.